Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Too Ambitious, Season 3. Can you believe that we've made it to Season 3? I'm super excited to be back with you all to celebrate Black women and women of color entrepreneurs who are changing the game. Now, don't forget, these women are innovators, game changers, and people who have come up with ideas and products and services that can help all of us to strive to be our best selves. So today I have one of those women with me, and I'm so honored to have her here. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Patrice Williams Lindo. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, she's family. Well, you know what? She is family.
Yes, as a matter of fact.
That's right. As a matter of fact, she is family in some way. We don't know for sure, but in some way she is family. But
Mhm.
Patrice Williams Lindo, she is the CEO founder of Career Nomad, a company that focuses on thought leadership, professional development, and organizational growth for her clients. Now, Patrice is known for transforming career pivots into paydays and building leaders who can steer through disruption. And one of those things that we know that because of her distinguished career and her significant roles in consulting, Patrice brings her expertise in organizational psychology and instructional technology, which makes her an indispensable resource for navigating corporate. Now, guess what? She's also a successful keynote speaker. Now, we probably already guessed that because she's that extraordinary, but please join me in welcoming back Patrice to Too Ambitious. Hello, Patrice.
Hey, look, hey fam. Hey,
Hey,
how are
fam.
you? Thank you so much for having me. This feels like home, right? I just want to
Exactly.
say, the platform that you're building, right? Too ambitious. This is what in consulting line we say we eat our own dog food, right? We
Yes.
talk about innovation, we talk about, how we can be impactful. And it usually starts from something that we need that we're like, well, wait, if I need this,
Right.
then there are probably other people that need this. And that's why
Exactly.
you built Too Ambitious. That's why I built Career Nomad.
Yep.
And this is basically for places that we were just too much for, right? That we had
Exactly.
to literally, in reality, come to the acknowledgement that we're not too much. We are the blueprint. So thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome, Patrice. You are so welcome. Now, listen, let's get a little refresher for our audience
Okay.
here,
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more about the Career Nomad. We talked a lot about your business last time, but a lot has changed in the
Mm.
last 6 to 8 months,
Girl.
I mean, listen, the world is turned upside down.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
tell me a little about the work that you are doing right now with the Career
Yes.
Nomad and where you're thinking, where you're going next.
So, as you very rightfully say, the world is dystopic at this point where, we were, for example, I'm going to say overrepresented. And I hate that word overrepresented because makes it feel like overcooked or overdone. That's not the
Right.
point.
No.
We as Black women, we followed the traditional rule book, right? We
Oh,
got the degrees, the certifications, the clearances, and we were in a lot of, good
yep.
government jobs. And as we have lived now, a lot of those jobs got slashed.
Yeah.
A lot of corporate America is reflecting the same type of behavior
Yeah.
and not even taking a partisan view. We're just taking a human view. The
Right.
workforce has been, the Black workforce has been
Yeah.
disseminated.
That's what
And for
yes.
all the people are going to say, well, not just Black people. Well, I'm a Black woman and I'm talking about Black women right now.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
what that has done, right? That's not just the paycheck in 2 weeks.
Right.
That's the 401k.
Right.
That's the retirement plan. For a lot of women, these jobs were their retirement plan. Because if
Exactly.
there were, someone like myself, I will be 53 in October.
Mm.
I've been in consulting for 20 years. I'm not necessarily ready for retirement,
Right.
but it's on there.
Yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
game board, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere, and I'm going to say sooner rather than later. And
Right.
it's one thing to have a plan and another thing to have that all kicked over, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
what I'm doing is showing up for the women that, have done their parts, that have been on these jobs, that have earned the
Yep.
certifications, not just in government jobs, but in
Right.
corporate,
Yep.
and helping them to, well, let me back up, giving them a safe space
Yes.
to
Yeah.
acknowledge the fact that, yes, an agreement was broken
Yeah.
and you didn't do anything that caused that
Yeah.
break, but it does impact you in a huge way. So we
Yes.
take a moment to give grace and hold space for
Yes.
that. But also a lot of us don't have the luxury to sit there. So once
It's true.
we acknowledge that, like, okay, yes, this is horrible. And right, not but,
Yes.
and not get stuck. These are the key, outcomes that you've driven. These are the certifications that you have. These are the transferable skills that you have. These are not women that necessarily need to know how to write their resume, right?
Right.
Because obviously they got to these places because they know how to, present themselves, but they also haven't had to do it recently. So
Yeah.
just think, if you've learned to ride a bike, for example, and you haven't ridden a bike in 10 years, the first time you get on the bike, it's going to scrape up your legs. You
Right.
may fall, you may
Uh,
not know the motorized version of bikes, whatever the case might be. So I'm helping them to kind of gain their footing, that in a way that pays homage to their loyalty,
right.
their pensions, the pipeline they thought they had, and getting to a place where I'm teaching them about the visibility and power positioning that they can use, helping them to get seen, heard, and paid, whether that's
I
in
love
another
that.
corporate role or working for themselves.
I love that, and I think it's so important when you talk about, that so many women have lost their livelihood in a sense. I think it also too, one of the things that I think is also important to acknowledge is that, it's the generational wealth that a lot of these women were
Yes,
building for
yes,
their
yes,
families and their
yes.
communities that is also lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
now it's almost like you started in a race and you were
Yep.
ahead in a race and now
Yep.
you're behind.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
now you've got to play catch up, and
Yeah.
so a lot of the work that you're doing is helping them to catch up, level the
Correct.
playing
Correct.
field, and you're
Correct.
giving them the tools that they need to move forward. So
Correct.
what does that look like, Patrice? What
You
does working with you look like?
right.
And I
Right.
know it's very layered. I know it's
Yes. 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 It's layered and nuanced, right? Because
exactly.
so a few things. Um, I would say if we stay just in the government sector for a
Yeah.
moment, it's always changing, right? It's
Yeah.
all it's not that there was ever an expectation that the way it was 20 years ago is the way it is now.
Right.
But I would say up to maybe pre-pandemic and in the pandemic. So we're talking about in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
you would have, let's say, a marketable set of skills. Let's say
Right.
you were a release trained engineer, or you were an instructional designer, like myself, or, just a consultant. Your network, right? Staying connected is
Right.
what kind of moved you along. You
Absolutely.
could, get on the phone and be like, hey, Trish,
Yeah.
thinking I may want to do blah, 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 blah. Or you may have even had somebody to call you and be like, hey, I don't know if you're looking, but this opportunity exists.
Yeah.
And then once that happened, that kind of warm intro took place, and it was less of a we don't know if we want you, because it was almost a handoff, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in any nefarious way. It's just like that's how it worked.
Yeah.
And then of course you'd have to formally apply and so on. But that initial, like, oh my God, I don't know if they like, that wasn't there. That wasn't a
Right.
part of the equation.
Yeah.
Okay, so then in the pandemic, with the shutdown, and then companies, well, agencies going
Right.
virtual and that sort of thing,
Yeah.
the Great Resignation, right? People,
Yes.
with job hop, myself included,
Yeah.
to get better opportunities, better pay,
Right.
better whatever it is that they were looking for. Well, now, right here we are in 2025. There are absolutely still opportunities. Is it like it was before? No,
No.
because as we, we're in, I'm going to say either DEI or DEI adjacent, or anything that somehow fell into, even unofficially,
Right.
DEI
Right.
got cut, right?
Right.
Well, couple of things: defense, logistics,
Yep.
war related, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah,
Yep.
cybersecurity, those things didn't decrease.
Right.
But they're typically not where we are.
Right.
Typically, they're not where we are.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like, it's almost as if, and I can't prove this, but it's almost as if like there was a set aside to all, like, the black jobs.
Right. Right.
And so they were like, yeah, let them have those, so that if in the event there was ever a cut, hello, there was a cut, they know exactly where to go. So
Right.
education, healthcare, all those soft, what the powers that be considered
Yeah.
softer
Yeah.
opportunities. But if you notice, like, if you think about companies like, of course, I can't remember their names right now. One is in Florida. Oh God, the
Mm.
defense companies.
Oh,
That just goes to show you how much, like, I'm not even,
right.
I'm familiar, but I can't think of the name at the moment.
I
But
know. It's
the
okay.
companies that specialize in like defense and such,
Right.
and you have
Only
to
one
have
I
the
can think
top,
of is like Lockheed Martin
like,
all. Okay,
right.
that's all I
Like
can think.
Lockheed Martin and that suite, that
Yeah,
suite. Which very much are looking for people with our credentials, but the hoops and the network typically, at least my experience is that we're not typically in those circles.
right,
And so, what I've been helping you, for example, people that want to stay in the government, I try to help them bridge. Like, okay, what is it that you did in this particular
right.
agency that are transferable and in need on this
Okay.
side of the world? Who
Okay.
is it that you need to connect with,
Right.
to make sure that you can get like a warm handshake into,
Nice.
those circles? And then how can you translate what you did, let's say, for the Department of Health and Human Services
Okay.
into, for example, the Lockheeds and those departments, right?
Right.
Those agencies.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to have those conversations, it takes time
Right.
and it takes those genuine connections to be able to have those things materialize.
Right.
Also, what can we do when it comes to like the hot items of the day? So defense and logistics and transportation is one side, but
Right.
then you also have things like AI. Everything is AI, and not just chat
Everything.
gpt AI, but the
Everything.
bridging, right, of
Yeah.
everything going AI. And so again, what I've been encouraging, our group that I work with is like, how can you make sure you're showing up in a way that you are AI friendly, if not
Ooh.
knowledgeable,
Yeah.
so that you can help them to translate? Because yes, AI is the direction and they need engineers. But those engineers, for example, still have to deliver trainings. They still have
Right.
change management that's happening. There's
Right.
still workforce transformation that's happening. So how can we take those skills that we had on this side of the fence and bridge it into this arena? So
Okay.
that's the short long answer, but speaking to the need of the market right now helps to create that lane that isn't typically there. It
Right.
takes a lot of energy,
It
energetically,
does.
spiritually, and
Mhm.
physically.
Yeah.
It takes you, setting up, coffee chats. It takes you reaching out. It takes you saying out loud, I was laid off. It's like
Um,
every day you're talking about it and you're like, okay, I'm not seeing anything until you get a yes.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's not just being laid off. It's the mental and physical toll that it takes
Yes.
to get through a very difficult time, which we know if someone is not working, especially for a long time, they're dealing with so many things in
Yep.
terms of, rebuilding their network, but rebuilding their self-worth,
Yes.
because some people, yeah, it does have a hard impact on them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
so, we also know that, the recent Black unemployment is the
Mhm.
highest it's been since 2020,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
currently standing at 7.5%.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
can you tell me a little bit about some more specifics in how you sort of help, those who are unemployed or who have been laid off recently to
Yeah.
basically sort of not only help them, okay, I'm going to help you to, connect with a network that can help you, but how do you help them like from a mental standpoint and,
Yes, right. That's right. That's
the
right.
resume too, all that is
Yes.
all in
Yes.
play, you
Yes.
know?
So the very first thing is, like I shared earlier, I acknowledge that we're still the shock absorbers of the economy, right?
Uh,
First fired, last hired type
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And so what I help them to do is think about where they can go, number one, for those safe spaces. So, for example, I have a group that's called Career Nomad Noir that's built specifically as a safe space to strategize out loud, to build survival kits, to talk through what the power pivots can look like, to talk about income streams, to
right,
really get people in the space where they are in the mindset that HR of any company is
yeah.
not there to save you. We build what's called resistance careers. So
Oh,
by that I mean, if you've been laid off, but you've been, let's say, at the Department of Health and Human Services, what were your core outcomes?
oh,
What is it that you excuse me, at your job? So we assess what you had done.
okay.
And based on what you had done, can we create some sort of a repeatable framework for how you did that? So,
Oh,
for example, I work in change management. One of the things that I do is called like North Star visioning. So, if you have an organization, let's say a startup or a new team, and you're
right,
trying to decide on the goals of that team, you have a goal, let's say, for example, to grow or to innovate or whatever the case might be, but how are you going to get there? So we do a current state assessment. We determine where the gaps are. From those gaps, we decide whether it's communications, learning, whatever kind of training that needs to happen,
Okay.
on what timeline, and what the potential, I'm going to say, obstacles are going to be.
Right.
So that's something that can be created into a framework or translated into a framework that if I were to consult outside of, let's say, my normal 9 to 5, I can offer that, for example, to startups that, yes, they're going fast. It's like move fast, break it quick, and blah, blah, blah. But they may need to center themselves. So I would market myself as, let's say, a change management consultant that can come in and help them do XYZ. Now, North Star Visioning is something that I do in my sleep.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that I do just as a normal part of the consulting engagements that I've done.
And it's
But my way of doing it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
North Star Vision.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Like where people are going directionally.
Okay. All right.
Or an organization or a team or an individual, right?
Yeah.
It can be scaled up, it can be scaled down, but it's to help gain clarity. It's to build cohesiveness. It's to create a definite outcome, for example, that you're looking for.
Got it.
Yeah. So what can you do, for example, in your career to make that, possible? So I would say the first thing is stop asking permission. The things that come easy to you are the things that other people don't know how to do, if you believe that. If you think about the last job that you had, the thing that you did that was like your bread and butter, and you thought about the process by which you do it, that's where the moves lie. If you audit your receipts for the last 12 months, if you refresh your brand assets, so let's think about like your LinkedIn profile, your resume, your portfolio of work, your body of work, and really think of yourself as an asset, because that's what you are, a walking asset, not a former employee. So if you think of yourself as a walking asset, what are you going to do to get the word out? Well, you're going to activate your network before you need it. You're going to talk about yourself in the form of outcomes and how you can create that outcome for that next team, that next client, for other people, depending on what you have to offer. And then most importantly, you're going to have those book of receipts to say, this is not what I think, this is what I've done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I love that, thinking about, the skills that you have and the things that you are really good at, you think about it in a framework. I think that's a really great way to sort of position yourself, because sometimes, especially when you've worked at a company for a long time, you don't know. You're like, I just do my job. You're not really sure. So I think that's
well, it starts with peeling those layers back, Trish, because a lot of times it's like, when you're moving is when you realize all the stuff you have. That's when you're finding the pictures or the shoes or the pair of earrings or whatever the case might be. So now if you consider like this layoff or whatever as you moving, you're finding the treasures beneath, right? What you're going to keep, what you're going to throw away, what you're going to share with somebody, you know what I mean? And so now what we're doing is finding the things you can share with someone or a company that you can sell.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. And if anybody watching right now, what is like your number one tip that someone needs to do right now or can do right now in order to set themselves up for success or find that next role?
Funny that you should say that. It goes back to thinking of yourself as that asset, right? If you come to a place where you can literally have as a mantra, ambition isn't my flaw, it's my oxygen, right? That way you're not waiting for a seat at the table, right? You're building your own tables, floors, chairs, all of the above. And sometimes you have to do that while you're on a job or as you're exiting the job. But what's your plan, right? If you get to a place where you also remember that visibility is your currency. If you're not seen, you can't be paid. So what are the things, right? That's, again, whether you're in a job and they're going to put you up for performance review, whether you are trying to get an organization to buy consulting services from you, whether you are applying for new jobs, right? You have to get into a space, and I'm sorry for all the introverts, myself included, but visibility is your currency. You've got to get to a place where, as Black women, we don't pivot like everybody else, right? We pivot like surgeons. We want to be precise, and we have to try our best to do it without panic. And if we do have panic, we need to have those safe places to be like, oh my God,
Yes.
Okay, big me up, please. Pray for me because I'm
Yes.
about to go in. You know what I mean? But we can definitely get it done. We can definitely get it
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I think you've said some really great gems there. That
Yes.
visibility is your superpower. You're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
I share in some of the programs that I teach, and especially as you know, is mainly about LinkedIn, but just letting people know that visibility is no longer an option. Right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
If you're not visible, you don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In this
Mm-hmm.
day and age of where we are in technology and
Yes.
AI and the internet and
Yes.
social media, that's
Yes.
the game now,
The
you
first thing they're
know?
going to say is, "Who is she?" They're going to look you up, for example, and if they can't find you, then what, right?
Yeah,
So, I encourage my clients, I tell them, rebrand with clarity
yeah,
all the time.
yeah,
As like you are learning about you and what's needed in the market, and you have to find those intersections.
exactly.
Network with intention and claim that recognition unapologetically. You've got
Yes,
to be able to do that. So then you're not asking for jobs or clients. You're basically creating demand and literally meeting the moment. So it's less about will you use me? It's like, no, I have a solution to a problem that people have.
exactly, exactly. And
Mhm.
how do you find the clients, or do they find you, Patrice?
A combination, right?
Okay.
So my main source of visibility are
Mhm.
platforms like LinkedIn. I've had media mentions. I do interviews like this,
Right,
speaking.
right.
So again, I look for platforms where it's one to many
Okay,
because it's virtually impossible to meet everyone. But if, for example, I post something on LinkedIn and it goes viral, right? One person
right,
shares to another. That's one thing.
right.
I was on a book. I'm sorry, I was a co-author. I'm going to turn around for a minute in
Okay,
this book,
yeah.
Corporate Blues with Dr.
Ooh,
Carrie
okay.
Yazid.
All
So
right.
get your book. But I wrote a chapter in there that's called HR is Not Your Friend. Since December, I've had over 180 media mentions
Wow.
from Business Insider to Forbes to Essence to Reader's Digest. Again, I'm looking for places that I can show up in integrity, talking about the things that matter not just to Black women, to everybody, but with the lens of intersectionality that we have. A
Right,
Black woman, over 50 that's been in corporate and corporate is changing again, in a big way.
right.
And how can I help people to navigate through these unpredictable times?
Yes, and you're so right that these times that we're in are very unpredictable. What worked 2 years ago, hell, even a
Nope,
year ago,
is
does not
working.
work anymore,
That's right. That's right.
So I think the work that you're doing is so important. One of the things I also wanted to touch on, and you probably know best, and I'm sure you do because you are the
Hmm.
expert in all things career,
Hmm.
is what if you're currently at a company right now
Yes.
and you're like, okay, I think I might get laid off, or,
Yes.
whatever the case may be.
Yes.
What should somebody do to start thinking about that next play, even
Yes.
though they're still at the company? What should they be doing right now to prepare for what's to come?
Well, that is a very, very good question. The first thing is not to, there's a concept, I should say, two concepts. One is quiet cracking, and the other is job hugging.
Okay, what's that other one again? Quiet?
Quiet cracking, quiet cracking.
Okay.
So if you think of like, have you ever been driving and like a pebble will hit your windshield
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it starts out as like this little chip, and then like you'll come back and it'll like spider out,
Right,
days
yeah,
later,
yeah,
right? That's the concept
got
where on the job something may be happening and under pressure for example in the windshield example, when it gets hot or extreme temperatures or
yeah,
cold,
yeah,
it spreads, right?
yeah,
So in the case of quiet cracking, there's like one thing that like triggers so many other things, but we don't say anything. We
right.
just suck it up and keep going, suck it up
Yeah,
and keep going until there's a complete break, right? And we don't want
yeah,
that to happen.
yeah,
So that's one thing. The second thing is job hugging. And so out of fear, where it's like, oh my God, I don't know if today's the day. I hope today's not the day.
yeah,
The first thing I would say is don't panic. It's easier said than done.
I
I'm
know.
not putting lipstick on a pig, but what I'm if there's one thing I ask people to hear is don't panic.
Yeah,
Do the math. Audit your receipts, refresh your brand, activate your network
yep,
if you haven't already. That should just be a part of your routine. I will tell you because I still work 9 to 5 and I still do Career Nomad.
yeah,
On my 9 to 5, every week I meet with 5 to 10, I'm going to call them power brokers or decision makers on my job. I don't want
love it.
anything. but
Yeah.
I just kind of stay top of mind. Hey, how's
Right.
it going? What are you working on? Here's what I'm working on. This was
Super
my
smart.
win, but you throw in a little how was the kids and what are you doing for the weekend? So
Yes.
it's not so transactional.
Right.
But you get people on your rotation so that as different things come across opportunities by things come across their desk,
Yeah.
they either reach out to you to see if you want it or if you know anyone that can help you fill it, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things I would say, right? Do the math, audit your receipts, make sure you have them top of mind. Now, I know that at some companies, for example, you can't email your stuff and blah, 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 but you need some sort of a brag book that is not necessarily tied to your company in the event of a layoff, because you may wake up one morning and can't get onto your computer, right?
Right.
For example, right? They've locked you out. So audit and keep your receipts, refresh your brand, activate your network, stop seeing yourself as disposable. You're dispensable.
Mhm.
Indispensable, that is.
Mhm.
So if you get to that place, then it's more like leverage, like, okay, I don't know when this shoe is going to drop, but it's like your rainy day fund, but I'm ready or more ready than I would have been had it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And if the company can't see the value you have, another one will, or your own business will.
Listen, drop the mic. Yes to all that. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yes,
I love those tips that you've given for someone who is, at a company currently and they're just sort
yes.
of wondering what's next.
Yeah, yeah,
Those are really tangible ways that they can start preparing.
yeah,
And even if they don't get laid off, at least
yeah.
listen, as the old saying say, stay ready, you ain't gotta get
You
ready.
know, get ready. Exactly. And those audit receipts, like I'll tell you a hack that I use. My
Mhm.
performance review, because I have to write out what I've done on my 9 to 5 for my performance review, right? So I translate those into, like, if I were out in the world talking about what I did in my 9 to 5, here's my receipts, because I would have had to have that done anyway on a
Yeah.
yearly basis.
Yeah.
How do I build that out the yearly basis? I do my monthly check-ins with my people lead. My
Yeah.
monthly check-ins with my people lead help to get my quarterly discussions going and my yearly discussions going,
Ah,
for example.
yep.
So there's your audit receipts. Refresh your brand. How are you taking what you've done at work and translating that into your LinkedIn, into how you express your thought leadership, your point of view, how you talk about your achievements,
Right.
right?
Right.
And literally, again, having those talking points so that as you are networking with intention, you can say, hey, so, I've worked across these industries, I've made my company X dollars, or I've trained X number of people, or whatever the case might be. But again, it's different versions of that same receipt, right?
Right.
From the performance achievement, for
Yeah.
example, because everybody has had performance evaluations of some sort.
Yes.
And then you add that, right? You add that to whatever your sauce is outside. So, for example, I talk about what I've done in the organization I work to 9 to 5, but then I talk about, like, the media mentions. I talk about the topics that I talk about. I talk about the speaking events.
Yeah.
Again, the topics that I talk about.
Yeah.
I talk about the people that I coach, and again, what that safe space is, in the way that it's not just all my eggs in one basket. So
Yeah.
that's the lesson, right?
Yeah.
Not all the eggs
Mhm.
in one basket. You have to have a couple of baskets.
Yes. Yes. Several. Several.
Yeah.
I'm also curious too, when you talk about, you are still working your 9 to 5 and you also do this as well.
Mhm.
There might be some people who end up doing the same thing that you're doing
A
both,
hybrid.
a hybrid of both.
Mhm. Mhm.
Do you have any tips to how to get started if you are still working a 9 to 5 and you
Yeah.
kind of want to do something else on your own at the same time? How did you get started?
I started RNA, came about, the
Yeah.
framework that I have
Yeah.
started because that's what I did,
Yeah.
right?
And
I started out as
RNA is rebrand.
rebrand, network, and achieve recognition.
Okay.
And so rebrand came up because my professional background is healthcare, teaching, sales, entrepreneurship, right?
Mhm.
And this is pre-chat GPT, right? So there was no chat GPT that
Right.
be like, hey, I do all these things. What do I do? It's just kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? And then as I thought about how I moved, like, I literally took a step back. And I was like, okay, I was on this current job. It was driving me crazy
Yeah.
at that quiet cracking. And I was like, I'm either going to quit or I need a job, and I needed a job. Right. And so I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? So I started, like, updating my LinkedIn and my connections, getting them up like I would balance my checkbook. I'm going to date myself. Nobody balances checkbooks anymore, but no, you balance your checkbook monthly, or your
Right.
finances. Sometimes you have to do it weekly, depending on what you have going on.
Right.
So I just got really super intentional about being visible. I didn't know at that time that's what I was doing, but I was like, I need these other companies to see me so I could get the heck out of here type thing. So I did that. And sure enough, company picked me up. And then once they picked me up, they had when I say pick me up, they tagged me to interview. Well, they had an amazing coach that I'm still connected with these days. She didn't call herself a coach. She called herself a recruiter, but she was a coach, baby.
Okay.
She was like, okay, this is how you say this. This is how you say that. Fix your resume. These are your questions. These are the bios and the people that will, like, I don't know if they did that for anybody else, but she was an angel for me. Cause and the personality that I have is that if you show me a little bit, I'm going to kick the door in. I'm like,
it's
bet.
on.
Like, I understand. So I took it, sailed through, got that job. And it was just like, somehow I was like, I don't know if this is a fluke, but okay, I'm going to remember this. I kind of filed this, started on that job. And I still kept my LinkedIn up because not that I expected anything to happen, but I had built that muscle.
Right.
So just kind of like make sure that I kept it up to date.
Yeah.
Another company reaches out and they're like, hey, within 6 months, they're like, hey, we like you. And I was like, I just got to this other company. Like, no, I'm not on the market. They were like, well, not even for this. And they named a number. I was like, pause.
You're like,
let's talk.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's talk. I was like, what caused you to come over? They go, well, we've been following your career. Me?
Wow.
No PMP, no shade to PMP. I'm just saying no, none of the traditional, we call it credentials besides my MBA and master's in education, plus working at these companies. But, at that time I thought, you have to go to like this Ivy League school. You have to have, this long list of credentials, blah, blah, blah. No, they were looking for the purple seahorse in the midst of white seahorses. No pun intended, but they were. And I was like, I'm your girl. Yeah, let's go. I can do this. So much so that the last company comes back and they're like, hey, we want you back. And so I was like, okay. So by then, I was standing a little more straight backed. And I was able to say, well, if you want me back, this is my number, which I had never done before. So then I was like, girl, you got to tell more people.
You have
like us, like, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but let me tell you, like, there's this thing. And then for me, that was like my proof of concept. That was like, I was the MVP, but like they were my proof of concept because I was taking it outside of just my family or myself. And I was like, maybe this is a fluke. Cause you know how we do that. We're like, no, you're kind of, shamed. Cause to be honest, I was a little ashamed at the beginning because there was still this narrative of you job hop, you're unstable. Like something's wrong with you, not wrong with them. Exactly. And I was like, that only applies to the other people. To us, we job hop because we make 67 cents on the dollar and we're behind. So you set up,
we're playing catch up all the time.
So you don't apply your narrative to me, type thing. But I had to say that to myself because I used that narrative too. I thought that was the only way until I was like, but is that serving me? That's not serving me. Why am I even playing to those rules?
Yeah.
So the part of it with the energy, the part of it with the knowledge, the part of it with the translation started there. And I started by telling people, Black women that look like me with similar backgrounds, like, hey, girl, they playing with you. Like, you come over here. Not that it's what is it? Roses and what is it? Honey and milk all the time.
Right.
There definitely sacrifices to be made. Like, yes, I had to travel.
Yes.
Yes, that was the closest we'd ever been to divorce, and my kids were little, and blah blah blah. So I had some,
some challenges.
Right. To do. So let me just tell the truth. However, if you can stick it out, if you can have the support you needed, like there's a personal support, there's a self-care support. There's also a sense of empowerment / boldness that you have to embody. But I think once you do those things, it pays its dividends. So now I'm figuring out and helping people along the way. What does that look like now? Because what we did in 2020 and 2021 doesn't work now, right? It's just like, how we get the Apple updates on your phone or how ChatGPT keeps having the new versions and we have to learn that version and it gets smarter every time. We have to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like the updates come like every week now.
Yes. Basically that's what we have to do, which just for people that have been in jobs for 10 and 15 years, they're like, wait, what? You got to do what? I'm like, yeah, girl. Or You can do your own thing, but even if you do your own thing, then you're on every day. You don't have one boss. Every client's your boss.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, you know what? You have dropped so many amazing gems, and I appreciate you sharing your story. Tell me a little bit about how we can work with you. Where can we
Yes.
find you?
Yes, yes,
I'm going to
yes.
share a little bit of your website as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But how
So
can we find you?
the best way to find me is on LinkedIn. That's where I spend a lot of time.
Okay.
That I drop, bombs every now and again on
Love it.
LinkedIn.
Love it.
I'm usually the one that's like, white fragility, or the unemployment numbers are up again, or
Right.
they can't fire Lisa Cook, whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn is the easiest way. As you're showing, we have our website there, careernomad.org, all
Yes.
things career nomad. Here's something funny. Google me. If you Google me, you will see all of the articles. You'll see the speaking
Yeah.
events. You'll see
Yeah.
my website.
Yeah.
You can also email me, hello@patricelindo.com. But social media is Career Nomad anything, and you will
All
find me.
right.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
So you're everywhere. The career nomad
Yes.
is everywhere. Okay.
Yes, yes. At least I'm working on it, right? That footprint to make sure it's
Yes.
everywhere. And just good old word of mouth. Just good old
Yeah.
word of mouth. There's a lot of women out there like myself that are really meeting the moment in the right way to support
Yeah.
each other, to support us. And it's a lot more than coaching resumes, right? It's rewriting those scripts. It's
Yeah.
teaching women Black women, how to retell their story in a way
Yep.
that turns ambition into recognition. It's a
Uh,
way that Career Nomad is a refuge for Black women in this time that are either erased or feel threatened that they're going to be erased by layoffs and
yeah.
any sort of BEI or otherwise rollbacks, but really just getting to a place where they can take a breath, but also jump again. Take a breath
Yes.
and jump again, and build that stamina, to be able to
Yes.
do that.
Yes, that's right. Because we've got to go the distance, and I am so grateful that there are women like you who have created
Oh,
this business, the
yes,
Career Nomad, to support women like me and other
yes.
Black women out there who are trying to find their way in a world that wasn't built for us, but we
And we
succeed.
start, and we win. We win
And
at
we
it.
win
Yes,
nonetheless.
yes,
So
yes, yes,
thank you so much, Patrice. And
yes,
like you said, if anyone's looking to learn more about Patrice's work through the Career Nomad or the Career Nomad Noir, reach out to her on LinkedIn, and
yes,
you can also Google her because she's
yes,
everywhere. She is that girl.
yes.
And Patrice, I want to thank you so much for your time and having this conversation with me. Such an important conversation. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me again. I
Yes.
just This platform has meant so much to me because I remember, like, when podcasting first started, I didn't see a lot of people that look like us, and I love podcasting. All things
Yeah.
audio, you have me. So, like, Audible, YouTube, Spotify, like, I will watch things, but I more listen than watch, and you are like a balm to my soul. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That
Of
means so
course.
much to me,
Of
because
course.
we're
Yes.
all over here in our little part of the world just doing our
Yes.
thing. So,
Yes, yes,
thank
yes.
you for that.
Of course.
I appreciate you. And thank you everyone for watching the next season of Too Ambitious. Like I said, I can't believe we're at season 3, right?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
I will.
Believe it.
Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
I'll be back with another incredible woman entrepreneur who is changing the game. Make sure you stay tuned every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. and your time specifically. So thanks again, Patrice. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for
Bye.
having me. Take care.